Welcome to the Voice of Retail. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc. This podcast is brought to you in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada. Tim Mason is the CEO of Eagle Eye, an information technology firm that uses a data-driven digital marketing platform to enable retailers to connect all aspects of the customer journey. As the former Deputy CEO and CMO of Tesco in the UK, Tim calls on his own background in retail as he works with big clients all over the world. In this episode of the Voice of Retail podcast, Tim is back on the podcast to share his insights on how the retail landscape has and will continue to shift because of the pandemic. Tune in to hear what Tim believes are the three essential elements for building a successful digital retail ecosystem, the top three things that retailers should be looking out for in the years following the pandemic, and finally, the three things that retailers should start in their marketing practices.
Your business will be more omnichannel now than it was when you went into the pandemic. So any friction that you have between your online and offline channels, any blind spots that you have, just got twice as bad.
Can you tell that we believe in the power of threes? Let's listen in. Tim, welcome to the Voice of Retail. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me on.
Well, I should say welcome back. This is your second time on the podcast. And last time we were speaking, it was in what I call the before time. A few things have happened since then. So I'm so excited to get you back on the podcast and tap into your wisdom and insights and how you're thinking about going forward and all those great things. So once again, thanks for joining me. Now, for the folks who may not have heard our first interview or know of Eagle Eye, know of you, but don't know probably as much as they need to, tell us all about yourself, your journey, who you've worked for, what you've done, and what you do now at Eagle Eye.
Okay, well, let's try and make this brief. So my name is Tim Mason. I am the CEO of Eagle Eye, which is a software as a service business that handles loyalty and personalized promotions. We're the transaction engine. We master the individual and help our clients to capture the individual in all their elements and to assist with a single customer view. And then we enable personalized promotions and offers and communications to those people. Really, the reason that we exist, I think, is because modern technology enables one-to-one marketing, but you need a transaction layer like ours to really bring it off successfully.
And your pedigree is pretty vast in certainly in the grocery, right? Tesco.
Yeah.
And so
I was going to say. So my background is in grocery. I was with Tesco for most of my adult life. I started as a Unilever graduate trainee for a few years, and then I joined Tesco on the marketing side. I worked in marketing, buying, retail operations, but principally I was a marketeer. And I think one of the interesting things about the Tesco story of that era, Terry Leahy's Tesco, was that it was a period when a retail business was really marketing-led, which I think is unusual in retail. You know, normally marketing in retail is marketing services, but I think we did a pretty full job of setting the strategy for the business, creating the product, and creating an environment where the purpose of the business was to create value for consumers. And the brilliant thing about Tesco is it's incredibly good at getting stuff done. So the wonderful thing about being a sort of customer strategist at Tesco was not only could you think it, but the guys could then go and do it.
Right.
One of the big things that we did during my time was Clubcard, which was the first big loyalty program, big use of big data really in the UK. Certainly in the grocery market, but probably more generally than that. And that was 95. So since then, I've been, interested in achieving marketing goals through one-to-one techniques, data analytics, and then communicating directly with consumers. When I left Tesco in 2012, I did a bit of PE and did a few bits and pieces, and then ended up here as chairman, became CEO, because I recognized that what Eagle Eye enables is the data-driven approach for the digital world to be able to do in a much better way than the ways I did it in the analog era, but to do really good marketing and ultimately to help our clients do great marketing.
And at scale, right? I mean, when I think of Tesco, so many retailers were influenced and shaped by what you did in your time there, what the organization did. You know, I think of Loblaws, I think of here in Canada, I think of many grocers, I think of private label, I think of loyalty programs, as you said. These things are now established around the world, but many of them were created and operationalized, as you said, by Tesco. So this isn't a history lesson, but kudos to Tesco in your time there for setting the standard that still exists. Now let's talk about Eagle Eye a little bit more. Give us a sense of your scope of practice, so where you operate. I believe you have clients in Canada. Where do you operate, and give me just a bit more background on Eagle Eye.
Yeah, we do indeed. Loblaw is one of our major clients. Mm-hmm. We've been working with them since Loblaw acquired Shoppers, and they embarked upon the journey to merge the PC card and the Optimum card.
Right.
And we basically have helped with that on the technology side all along the way. I suppose the main feature of that is the personalized offers that Loblaw's customers receive on a weekly basis. And we enable that level of personalization. So we enable, north of 100 million personalized offers a week, quite a lot north of that, to be honest.
Wow.
We do a similar thing for Sainsbury's in the UK. Mm-hmm. We have just won Woolies in Australia to do a similar thing. Mm-hmm. And we do similar things, but slightly broader things for SEG in the US. Now
this is fun for me. I get to tap into your wisdom and experience as we all try to understand what the heck just happened with this whole COVID era, the past 18 months. And I don't want to dwell on the COVID era. Everyone knows the history. We're not done with it quite yet. But as you think about consumer behavior and what may or may not be an adaptation to unusual events versus a structural change, this is what I'm trying to figure out. I think we're all trying to figure out is what has actually changed. If you and I were sitting together in a pub 2 years ago, we would say, boy, if you could get a couple of percentages of change of consumer behavior, we'd probably give the license to this pub over. But we've had, data that says 45% of consumers have shopped somewhere different or different brands. I mean, these are just momentous numbers. And the time span, 18 months, is pretty significant. How are you thinking about the past 18 months in terms of what and how you're thinking about it going forward?
I think there have been some big and irreversible changes, I think. I mean, clearly the adoption of online shopping and the satisfactory delivery of that service via online has had a tremendous influence on a lot of people. In the early days of e-commerce, the magic number was 3. I think 3 is often a magic number in a lot of things, actually, but I think there may even be a song about it. But 3 shops and they were in,
Right.
So you had to work really hard to get the first 3 shops. And, people have done 3 shops, 6 shops, 9 shops, 12 shops, 21 shops. So they really have got familiar and have been forced to get familiar with the technology, which, as easy as the retailers try and make it, is potentially a bit of a barrier. So I think that's been a huge change. I think that certainly in the UK, what you saw was a resurgence of big stores. I think that will prove to be pandemic-based. I think the consumer will go back to much more shopping in the now. Not everybody, of course, but I think anybody that thinks that this is the renaissance of big space retail, I think is a mistake. Yeah. I think there was a flip of that coin, which was convenience came under some pressure. I think convenience will will reassert itself. The interesting question, I think, is in this market, particularly in the UK market, is whether the limited range discounters, the Aldis and the Lidls, will get their mojo back, or whether actually the big four have managed to get them into a place where they can control their growth. For me, the jury's out on that. I think there's a chance the big four have done it. We'll have to see.
Yeah. I mean, it's so fascinating because I was going to use the word renaissance just in the way that you did, whether it was, that one shop behavior. I'm sure you saw the same thing across all the markets you operated in. Fewer visits, massive basket sizes, less shops, less browsing, less shopping, more intention. But it feels like there's a very, very powerful, I've been calling it regression to the mean. In other words, what people did pre-pandemic and the before time, in some instances, is coming back, in terms of the shopping behaviors. But how do you then think about the loyalty programs where you've got both risk and opportunity, it feels like? So you've got risk in that people have broken relationships that were kind of by rote for in some ways their entire life. And then on the other hand, they've tried new retailers, tried new products. How does all this now, in your mind and your calculus and your algorithms, where you've had unpredictable behavior, start to factor into the offers? This is really what I think you spend a lot of time thinking about, is how do we make offers that are relevant, right? What is relevance now? How do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I can give you my opinion. We don't actually do that, Michael. What we do, as I once described Eagle Eye in the early days, is you write the love letter and I deliver it, but I can't guarantee you'll get the date. That really is down to you. So if you want to talk about algorithms and data strategy, I can give you opinions, but I am not a practitioner. One of the things we deliberately do with our business is we believe that there are three things. This is a slight tangent, Michael, but I hope you'll stick with me for a moment.
Yeah, of course.
We believe there are three things that you need to do to build a successful digital ecosystem. You need a data lake and you need great data analytics. You need which leads to the next best message, the next best offer for individuals. You then need a transactional capability that is able to take that data and to deliver it through the relevant touch point, through the relevant channel at the right time in the right way. That's what Eagle Eye does. And then on top of it, you need a great UX that the consumer likes and buys into and represents the brand and represents value to them. So those are the three things. And we very much concentrate in the middle area. But
that middle is right offer at the right. Well, the right offer is more generated by the data, but it's at the right time at the right place. Right.
The issue is actually a technology issue, that data and data analytics assisted by AI can now absolutely get down to the next best message for Michael. And Michael has got a phone not more than a foot away from his hand at this very moment, which is a unique one-to-one device.
Right.
The only issue is how I get the data from there to there. And what happens is that the current technology infrastructure, largely driven by the POS and stores, which is where the promotions get activated, cannot cope with many more than, say, 1,000 offers. And what we enable you to do is to cope with hundreds of thousands of offers, because we take the feed from the POS, do the processing in the cloud near the POS, and then pass it back. So it's a technology play. And as I say, the better our clients at writing love letters, we'll do a beautiful job of delivering them, but actually the result will be down to what they generate, which is why we can partner with Waitrose, Tesco, Sainsbury's, and Asda in the UK without them saying, hang on, there should be some uniqueness here. Because actually what we are is we're a digital postman.
Yeah, you're the enabler. You make it happen at scale, like at significant scale, right?
And that's the point.
Right
is
on.
the scale that your data analytics can. Going back to the question, what should you do? The answer is you should know who your customers are and then try and speak to them as relevantly as you can.
Yeah. It gets back to Rogers and Pepper's 1-to-1. Kind of a follow-on question just around the delivery. So there's kind of broadly speaking two types of loyalty offers. Ones that are based on analytics, we think you'll love this, and others that are kind of activated by real-time behavior. If customer does Y, give them X offer. Do you enable both of those type of offers at scale?
We do. We do.
Yeah. And do you have any perspective on which one of those? I guess they're both like brother and sister, right? They both work equally well.
To be honest, the prevalent source is the former. It actually hasn't moved on much from the dunnhumby Tesco days. This is your shopping history. Yeah. This is your most recent shopping. Therefore, we should send you these things.
I think there's tremendous risk in that, in as much as the past 18 months has been so. Like I've talked to retailers who are very concerned, as they think about this, that their AI models don't work anymore the way they can't predict based on the past 18 months. As you were saying earlier on, there's some behaviors. Suddenly people went back to department stores and big shops that can't count on that happening because it was just an adaptation.
It's always a choice. It's always a choice how you tune your model from how much you look at history and how much you look at recent weeks and how much you weight recency over history. And, if you felt that was a concern, you just say to them, draw a line at this state, put more value on that knowledge. So I think there are ways around it. And to be honest, these models learn extremely quickly these days. So I wouldn't be too. But the point that I was making is that, frankly, is the way most people generate their offers. Right. There are not nearly as many people who are generating what you were talking about, which I would describe as being marketing in the now or contextual offers. There's much less of that, and I think that is perhaps the next big opportunity for marketing. And the thing that I draw on as a sort of a correlation to that point is if you look at the enormous growth in near-me searching, when location and proximity actually you suddenly realized were a great surrogate for relevance. And I think the other surrogate for relevance is what are you doing? So where are you now? And then the new opportunity for marketing is what are you doing now?
I love your phrase of the now because it is so relevant. It's interesting because I did some of that work 20 plus years ago at Hudson's Bay. We had a huge loyalty program. We had just converted Club Z and put HBC rewards together. We had an Air Miles partnership, and we had 9 million active members. And so we started playing around with loading offers based on, if you bought beauty and X, how do we get you up the escalator with a bonus offer to check out women's apparel? Like it was kind of a blend of those two. But, what we were running into was operational scale from a technology perspective. That kind of real time at that time was a real draw. A real draw on the technology, and we didn't have cloud back then. Is cloud a big enabler of what you do? As you said, you're
yes.
SaaS based. That's got to be a big enabler.
Yes, huge. Yeah, huge. Literally, when I started in this business, which was only 5 years ago, and some people were more advanced than we were, but we had physical data centers. So when we won the Loblaw contract, we had to have 2 physical data centers, one and a backup, and the time that takes, the cost that takes. Whereas
the
now,
expertise, right? That's
correct. But now you just bring in more servers. Yeah. So it's made a tremendous difference to a young business like ours that is opening up new geographies. The cost step in opening up new geographies is significantly less. than it was. So yes, I think the cloud is a tremendous enabler.
And when you talk to retail CEOs, they're comfortable with cloud-based computing. They kind of connect that that's the power, but that you don't need.
I mean, there are a limited number who are not, but they are not the leaders.
Right. And they're concerned.
One or two of the family businesses I've talked to are a bit suspicious of it.
Yeah.
But generally, no. I think these people are huge users of the cloud.
So okay, let's bring ourselves into the now, as we would say. And then I've got a question that asks you, top three things. So you're right. Everything for me is about the threes. I love that stuff. So when you think about this new world, whether it's omni-channel or hybrid, how are you advising your clients to think differently about the next 3 to 5 years? Are you saying, listen, as we just discussed, get more into the now, because that's really what's going to move your business forward? When you have these meetings with your existing clients, what are you talking about? What are you saying? Here's the opportunity that you need to understand that we can help you with, or anything around in and about that. Give us a lens into the future, so to speak, from your perspective.
I think the first thing is, it depends the starting point. The first thing is you've got to know who your customers are. The second thing is that your business will be more omnichannel now than it was when you went into the pandemic. So any friction that you have between your online and offline channels, any blind spots that you have, just got twice as bad. So the imperative to fix them in order to fix friction, aggravation, sending people an offer on a product they've already bought, all those other things, those all just got bigger. The imperative to fix them just got greater. I think then, of course, once you start thinking about personalization, there's a long way to go on this journey, Michael. So people send out personalized offers, but they still send them out on flyer day. They send them out on store set day, almost without exception, I think. I don't know of anybody who says, Michael's family always shop on a Saturday, and we have worked out that the optimal time to send them their offers is Friday night, Saturday breakfast, when they get it on a Thursday, same as everybody else. Now, that seems to me to be the product of some fairly rudimentary A/B testing. One of the benefits of having started in the dark ages, when you go back to what you could and couldn't do was you couldn't do very much. So you got very good at what you could do.
Right on.
And I think that one of the problems now, look, banks have been able to do this forever and a day, and by and large have never done it, and certainly never done it very well. So having the data, having the access, doesn't mean you do good stuff with it. So what you need, I think, is a relatively simplistic roadmap that we're going to achieve this. We're going to send the offers out at the right time. We're going to try and thank people, and then if you think about it, I've always thought marketing is a bit like good manners. We think you're going to come and shop with us. Here, this might make it a little bit more interesting. Oh, you're shopping with us. Wouldn't it be lovely if you had one of these? Thank you so much for shopping with us. Here, have one of these as a little thank you. Wouldn't you like to come again? It's just basic good manners. It's the way we were all brought up. And for me, I've always felt that marketing done like that just works really well. But nobody's doing that. So there's a huge opportunity to just think about that and what that means and how we do it. And how do we know when people are in the building, and what do we trigger, and how do we create triggers and stuff like that?
Well, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go.
Oh, I was going to say you've kind of getting to my last question, which is framing this idea of advice to retailers, the advice you give them in 2 starts and 1 stop. You've clearly kind of articulated a start. Start thinking about that testing and marketing in the now. What if you had to? What other kind of things that they should start doing, and one thing maybe they should stop doing that they've done in the past?
I'm going to stick very tightly to my current sort of interest and subject matter. The other thing I would start doing I've touched on it already, is you need to start thinking about your customers as an audience. One of the enormous advantages that grocery retailers in particular have is the frequency and the aggregate value of the relationship they have with consumers. So although in many walks of life, I don't shop with somebody often enough and I don't spend enough for a 1% or even a 0.5% discount to be worth having, in a retail world, that sort of level of a discount with a few offers is worth having because I'm very, very financially very engaged with that business. Right. So it's a fantastic competitive advantage over the vast majority of industries. And the thing that you can do from that competitive advantage, I believe, is you can create an audience and then you can create a channel for communication with that audience. That means two things. One, it means that you can do a huge amount of your marketing for free because it's through your own owned channel. Mm-hmm. And secondly, what you can do is you can create content which, because it's personalized, is engaging. So you start with personalized offers, but then because you buy products that are, reflect the fact that somebody in your family's got a food allergy, you actually get quite a lot of editorial and advice about food allergies. You get new products that are launched in the food allergy space and so on and so forth. You don't happen to get a pet. You don't happen to have a pet, or at least they can't see you've got a pet. So they don't talk to you very much about pets. I've got 2 dogs. They talk to me about dogs an awful lot. Do you understand what I mean? So the idea is that what you're thinking about is, can I create a relationship with my consumers where actually they have an app which behaves like a newsfeed, a personalized newsfeed about my brand designed for them. And for me, that's the really big step forward in marketing in this world. And very few business. So I think my sort of aspiration for large retail grocery businesses is to have the ambition to be on the consumer's front screen. To have that app on the front screen, to be a front screen app. Yeah, that level of usage and that level of engagement, that it's up there with WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram.
Advice, one thing they should stop doing, and this is maybe behaviors that worked before, behaviors that worked pre-pandemic, habits that have built up over time. What would you say retailers should stop doing?
Stop finding excuses not to know who your customers are.
Interesting.
Jeff Bezos won't even let you in the door of Amazon Go unless you're digitally registered to the shop. I had a conversation with a large EDLP retailer, and I said to them, don't you want to know who your customers are and what they're buying? And they said, of course we do. That's motherhood and apple pie, but how are we going to do it? And I said, well, to be honest, that's not down to me. That's down to you. And so there are people whose strategy from the 1940s, 50s, 80s prevents them from finding a way to get their customers' identities. And that is like driving around in your car not using satellite navigation.
Well, listen, Tim, this has been a great conversation. I'm so happy we could tap into your insights and talk about what you do and talk about what you do at scale. If listeners want to learn more about yourself or Eagle Eye, where should they go?
EagleEye.com.
And I'd encourage everybody to go. There's lots of great insight and thought leadership in and around this, harnessing both your and the team's expertise. So listen, thanks so much for joining me again on the Voice of Retail podcast. A real treat to catch up. I wish you continued success and have a safe week, and look forward to hopefully seeing you on this side of the pond one day in person real soon.
Yes, travel restrictions notwithstanding. Thank you, Michael. See you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of The Voice of Retail. Be sure and follow the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you enjoy podcasts so you don't miss out on the latest episodes, industry news, and insights. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a rating review, as it really helps us grow so that we continue to get amazing guests onto the show. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, president of Emmy LeBlanc Company, Inc., and if you're looking for more content or want to chat, follow me on LinkedIn or visit my website at emmyleblanc.co. Until next time, Stay safe. Have a great week.